Thank you, Senator Whitehouse. Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Peters, for being here and for your service.
Thank you, Senator.
Nearly 1 year ago, we held a hearing. I think we're 2 weeks shy of being 1 year from that hearing. Immediately following that hearing, I submitted a short list of questions to you and have not yet received a response. It was during that hearing that a couple of my colleagues asked you about timely responses to questions from this committee, and you acknowledged that it was important to do that. Can you tell me why you haven't responded to my questions yet? These are not difficult questions, and most of our nominees respond within a week or so of getting them.
Thank you, Senator. So I, too, am disappointed that those questions, for the record, have not yet been answered. We have been working on them diligently over the last year. It has been a lot of back and forth with the department. I was hoping that they would be cleared this week. They're not yet. That being said, we have done other things. We've increased the number of employees in our legislative affairs, so the individual requests that we have received over the last year.
Can you tell me when I can receive a response to those questions?
I don't have a specific date for you, Senator, but I know we're working on them.
Okay, I'd appreciate it if you could get back to me by the end of this month. That would be 1 year from the date of the hearing, and I don't think that's too much to ask. One of the reasons I'm asking about this, and I hate to pester you on that, it's just we do need answers to those questions. They're important. Among the questions that have been asked of you relate to how we separate out male and female prisoners. We do this for good reasons, reasons that relate to human biology, differences between the sexes, and there are a lot of questions that we have about how we do this. It's quite concerning that the number of female inmates who have become pregnant during the course of their confinement in BOP custody is not zero. And it's even more concerning that a substantial number of those pregnancies are the result of the BOP forcing female prisoners to share their facilities with biologically male prisoners. It's really concerning. Now, in January of 2022, the Bureau of Prisons adopted definitions that have an impact in the area that I'm asking about. Definitions for words like gender, gender nonconforming, gender affirming, and cisgender. For example, the Bureau of Prisons must now look at gender as, quote, a construct used to classify a person as male, female, both, or neither. Gender encompasses aspects of social identity, psychological identity, and human behavior, close quote. Now, I understand there are lots of feelings, lots of different beliefs about those things. But what I find most alarming about this is that notably absent from that list are things that you might expect to see, that you might think should at least be taken into account. Things like biological sex, like reproductive organs, the presence of a Y chromosome, or something as simple as a 5 o'clock shadow or an Adam's apple. Is biology now a verboten subject when you determine which prison you're going to send a prisoner to be incarcerated in? Is that now off limits?
No, Senator. In fact, I would present to you today that the majority of those in our care and custody are housed in facilities based on their chromosomal distinctions.
The majority of them, as we've always done, and as any sane prison system always would. The majority of them, that's good to know. But why not all of them? Why would you ever subject female inmates in particular, who face a series of biological disadvantages relative to male prisoners, face a number of vulnerabilities that male prisoners don't face? Why would you ever subject female inmates to being incarcerated against their will with biologically male prisoners? Can you tell me when that's ever justified?
So we also recognize, as do many experts, that a person may identify as a different gender than their biological one, and we recognize that at the Federal Bureau of Prisons.
Okay, but a prisoner, as I understand it, need only convince a single Bureau of Prisons psychologist to sign a form to have their identity considered for a transfer. Just one person. And the request then has to be approved, but that's really all that has to happen. It's almost a turnkey situation. They convince one psychologist and the whole process is set in motion. And yet, it's my understanding that BOP doesn't publish statistics on the number of inmates who are assigned to a prison that doesn't conform with their biological sex. Why is that?
So, Senator, while that frontline counselor starts the process is very complex. It's a multidisciplinary team that includes experts from psychology and health services and corrections that make that final determination around
So why
housing.
doesn't it publish the statistics?
Senator, I don't know why we don't publish the statistics, but I can look into that and
Okay,
get back to you.
that would be great. If you would publish that, I would appreciate it. Now, some have estimated that the number is around 1,300 as of January 2022. To the extent that that estimate was even in the ballpark, it's undoubtedly higher now, the longer that this stays intact. That is not an insubstantial number, especially when you consider the fact that most prisoners in America are not in BOP custody. That is, most prisoners are serving a sentence issued by a state court for an offense under state law, not federal. It's a really large number, and it's very concerning considering the number of pregnancies that take place, the number of heinous circumstances that can result from this, and in fact have resulted from them. I see my time has expired. I've got other questions to ask you on this and other topics, including implementation of the First Step Act. I will submit those in writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Cruz?